What's up and welcome to my guitar channel. Today we are going to look at how we take this
You want me, I want you, baby. My sugar boo, I'm levitating. The Milky Way, we're renegading. Yeah, 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 yeah. I got you, moonlight. You're my starlight. I need you all night. Come on, dance with me. I'm levitating. You, moonlight. You're my starlight. I need you all night. Come on, dance with me. I'm levitating.
and turn it into this.
Rise from your knees, hold out your hands, surrender. Rid yourself of what's collapsed you, and prepare to glide. You know the truth, and prepare to glide.
So that's what the video is about, is we're simply taking Levitating by Dua Lipa and we're changing bit by bit by bit until we get to a totally different song. Now, the question on the thumbnail is this plagiarism? The answer is I have no idea. I don't think it is, because the original and my version are totally separate songs, totally different lyrics, totally different melodies. The only thing that's really shared is a chord progression. And we all know that the same chord progressions are used in literally thousands of different songs. So claiming plagiarism from a chord progression simply isn't the obvious thing. Let me know after you've seen this video what you think the answer is, because I'm actually really curious to know different perspectives on this topic. Essentially what I'm going to do in this video is just take you through the process that I went through to get the end result, the little bits and pieces that I changed along the way so that it ended up in a totally different universe. So the very first step was honestly just to lay the song out exactly as is, but with metal instrumentation. One of the limitations that I put on myself with this is it should be something that's reproducible live. Now, of course, I have got multi-layered guitars and all this different type of stuff going on, but it's not like I've got, you know, all these different instruments going on that simply can't be there if I were to perform this live. There are certain things about it that do not work when we just do a carbon copy cover. And by that, I mean, if you listen to the start of Dua Lipa in the pre-chorus, it is just a kick drum and a snare. There are other instruments that are clouding out different parts of the spectrum to make it sound more full. So when you hear this version, it's going to sound quite weak compared to what you heard with Dua Lipa. But let's give it a listen.
You want me, I want you, baby. My sugar boo, I'm levitating. The Milky Way, we're renegading. Yeah, 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 yeah. I got you, moonlight. You're my starlight. I need you all night. Come on, dance with me. I'm levitating. You, moonlight. You're my starlight. I need you all night. Come on, dance with me. I'm levitating.
So you see there, it's like, it sounds fine, but it just sounds like a boring cover, like someone was just performing this Dua Lipa song with metal instrumentation. They're not really asking any questions. They're not bringing their own creativity into the mix. And certain things about this sound incredibly weak, like this drum part. Right? To me, for metal, it needs some cymbals in there, that type of thing. But once again, I was only trying to emulate exactly what was in the Dua Lipa song with what was possible. The only thing that I really think I missed out on was that there's that weird chordal thing that's happening in the intro, that's happening in the background. I couldn't think of what instrument, like I could have had a piano or something in there, but I just chose not to. But I did include things like there's the string line that's, you know, the strings are playing this thing, and I've just copied that on the guitar, which sounds like this. So you see, I've like still filled this out. I've still attempted to make it somewhat close to the original, but I haven't really done too much to change anything. So let's move on to the second iteration of this song. This is what I think a metal band might do, because instead of just taking the cookie cutter exactly as it is, they're changing things around, they're making it more metal, they're putting in much more metal norms and things that you might hear in metal, but they've just got the same chord progression and the same melody as what you find in Dua Lipa to make a cover. As you see, it's actually moving very, very quickly away from the original.
You want me, I want you, baby. My sugar boo, I'm levitating. The Milky Way, we're renegading. Yeah, 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 yeah. I got you, moonlight. You're my starlight. I need you all night. Come on, dance with me. I'm
By simply holding these chords and playing this rolling drum beat, straight away that puts it into a very metal vibe. This sounds like something that you'd hear somewhere in a metal song. The drums are doing interesting things. It sounds like a performance, even though it's obviously only MIDI. It sounds like something that a drummer might play rather than like a funk drum machine might play. This guitar riff in the first one, you play the same 2 bars, what's that, 6 times? Yeah, something like that. In this one, every single bar is different. This is much more metal. And I mean, there's plenty of metal where it just repeats, but for the style that I was going for, this made the most sense to me. I've also cut out some of the stuff that was in there, but left in the melodies to support the vocals. Now, my vocals in this are not that strong. This is not that easy for me to sing, so we end up with something that sounds okay. It sounds metal, it sounds like a metal cover of this song to me. But you put all those ingredients together and we've got what I would consider a cover of the song, something that someone might put on an album at some point in time. What this does is actually really heavily lays the foundation for what we do next. I knew this little breakdown moment that I have in here is going to be very difficult to make work with the original vocal melody and rhythms, because it's expecting the song to be laying a solid foundation. It's not anticipating the song to move around at all. If it were, it would be changing with it. However, I did just want to take yet another step away from the Dua Lipa song with this, so I had to start changing it up. But I think it worked quite well. You know, maybe if I did something slightly different there, but I didn't want to change the lyrics. I didn't want to touch any of that just yet, because I'm still trying to keep the song intact. Then we move on to the final version, which, just to refresh your memory, you see straight away, it's like, because I've changed the melody, I've changed every single thing underneath it out, all we need to do now is change the melody and we get something totally different. There is something that I have here that I chose to leave out because I thought that it actually detracted from it. I tried to keep that little guitar idea, the string idea in there. It turns out my rhythm's terrible in that, but I realized pretty quickly that it wasn't going to work. So this is what it sounds like with it in it. Like, it just puts an unnecessary amount of stuff in there. So instead of doing that, you support the vocals. Right, and this is in the breakdown. So just for context with all the guitars. I didn't want something that sounded pretty, it just wanted to sound evil. And of course I tried my hand at screaming, so I screamed at you.
You know the truth.
Dirty. So you see how each step that we've taken here has taken us just a little bit further away from the original song. At first, we just copied it exactly the way that it was, except now with metal instrumentation. The next, we put metal drums in there, metal bass, metal guitar, and played it again, and it worked fine. There was a couple of little bits that I did change to make it more metal, but it was nothing significant. And then by the time we get to that point, all I did was change the vocals out, just put in new vocals, and it sounds like a completely different song. Like, if you've listened to this and you go, no, that sounds too similar, what I want you to think about is if you were listening to this song, like you went to your friend's place and they put this song on, the one that I've written, they put this song on their Spotify or something, and you're just hearing it for the first time, I would be surprised. I would be shocked if someone said, that sounds like that Dua Lipa song. Because to me, it doesn't. The only reason why it's obvious is because I've made the very clear connection of the process that I went through, where I started and where I moved to at every point to make something that is arguably totally unoriginal, but it sounds like an original song to me. Anyway, I just thought that that was a really interesting thing that should be discussed. And please let me know what you think. Is this plagiarism? To me, this is obviously not plagiarism, aside from the fact that I'm showing you where I got all my source information from. But there's no way that I would have written that without doing the process, starting with a Dua Lipa song and ending with a totally different song. So I don't know, it's a grey area to me. I find it interesting. Anyway, that's it from me this week. I have the thought of taking an existing metal song and turning it into a pop song by essentially reversing this process. Please let me know what you think about that. Are there any songs that you'd like me to do this with? I'm very open to suggestions. If you like this video, leave me a like. If you're feeling generous, subscribe. And if you've got any questions, either leave them below or send me an email on my email address downstairs. All right, catch you guys next week. Bye.